it's pretty much mostly the realities of the industry. Like, I have a lot of people angry at me for basically displaying uh the basic realities of the game industry, because there's been this huge push towards digital lately. And I have mostly seen a trend of basically game publishers, and not only that, the retail industry slowly phasing out their physical game collections. And what's really frustrating is the gaming industry's refusal to accept that reality, because the gaming industry is a industry based in technology. And I would say over the past, like, I would say 20, 30 years, technology has remarkably advanced to the point where the stuff that we have now would have been considered science fiction. It would have been considered science fiction 20, 30 years ago.
What you mean,
Like something from Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like an example of like, because I do remember like watching like those old like 90s movies that I used to like as a kid, and that like those things are actually like reality now. So it's like
Yeah, like with James Bond has that communication watch, he has one of those watches that you can talk to people across the world, has
yeah.
those camera, those type of things. That's an actual reality now.
And
And
I think it's like oh, what was it? It's like uh think of I think that there must again I'm blanking, but like there's films like where they basically got like touchpads and stuff in like the 90s or something, and it's like, and you're thinking, oh wow, that's so like cool back then, and
the
it's
holograms.
yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, that's pretty standard now. I think I don't think I've watched it, but it's like in that Hackers movie, like pretty much all the stuff in that was like people
The
thought was crazy
Matrix.
back then, and it's like yeah, it's like like pretty much reality now.
Yeah, virtual reality is basically more or less become a reality. Especially since virtual reality has become a huge thing in gaming now.
It's expensive though.
Depends on what headset you get, really.
Yeah, I think a friend of mine he's got he's got the PSVR.
So you got the lowest of the lowest, then.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true, but
I mean,
either way, back to
I was gonna
what I
say like
was.
I haven't even like I think I've used his like once or twice, and it's cool and everything, but like yeah.
Yeah, it's an HTC Vive would pretty much be a better lower end VR headset,
Hmm.
at least for PC. But back to what I was saying. What I've said basically more or less triggered a whole lot of people on the internet, to say the least, because it's like, I'm telling you from firsthand experience. And keep in mind, I know a lot of people in the game industry. I studied to become a game developer,
Oh, cool.
and the people in my class went on to become well, some of the people in my class went on to become very well employed in the game industry.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
so I'm telling you firsthand what they're telling me.
Yeah.
Listen, the things that I know in the game industry would pretty much, it would make your blood boil, or it will shock you with how much stuff I know behind the scenes. And what they're all telling me is that physical games are becoming the way of the dodo. It's only gonna be like what Vinyl is like.
What you mean,
You,
like niche
yeah,
and
Vinyl
like
Records.
yeah, like what niche and
Yeah,
collected? Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna become boutique items.
I mean, I know deep down you're right. I'm
Yeah,
I
I don't.
can.
And listen, I don't want to be right. I like physical games. I like the act of collecting games, but at the same time, the reality is stark. It's stark. It's like the reality is that more people are playing digital games than they are playing physical games. Like, especially with the younger generation,
Oh
Gen
yeah,
Z and the Zoomers, they only
my
know digital gaming.
my sister, she's got most of her game. Well, I mean, she's got like a small collection of physical games because I think it's like, oh yeah, it's either a lot cheaper to get physically than digitally. But like, she spends a lot of time playing like on her Steam account, and that's obviously all digital. So it's like, well,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like for me, literally as recently as like 2019, the vast majority of my game collection is like digital.
I mean, mine's like um, I I don't know. I don't. I'd probably have to like count how many games I actually have because I don't think I've got that many games in the grand scheme of things. But I've got a decent collection of physical games, but do also have a lot of digital only games. And to be fair, a lot of the digital games are sort of the remasters slash re-releases of like old school games. Like I've currently been playing Quake, and I bought Quake 2
Yeah,
a couple of weeks ago as well.
it's my digital library is huge on Steam.
Actually, to be fair, speaking of Steam, I mean, I don't have like a massive Steam collection, but again, a lot of the Steam games I've got are the ones that you just can't get physical. Well, the only way to get physical copies would be to buy like the original hardware and the original and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what a lot of that's what a lot of people are. It's like snubbing their nose at PC game because oh, I can't get it digital, so it doesn't exist to me. It's like, asshole, they haven't been doing PC gaming since, I mean, PC gaming hasn't been doing physical since I think 2012. It's like I'm struggling to figure out like why these people are so, because I get it, like companies, with all the nonsense that's been going on with like digital games, like licenses being pulled and basically games disappearing and being delisted. I understand that, but at the same time, there are sites like Good Old Games that basically give you the games for DRM free, and the games are pretty much yours to keep forever. So there's that. And also, it's like even with the physical games you get, you basically still have to download patches that make the game even functional these
I was,
days. So
that's actually something I was talking to again. I was talking to my sister about it. And we were talking about it's like, oh yeah, it's nice to have like a physical copy and stuff. And then it's like, and I was thinking like, to be fair though, I'm fairly sure both like PS5 and PS4 games you have to like, because I'm old enough to remember like PC game where you had to stick the disc in and like you had to like install some stuff, and then that was a
yeah, you had to do multi-disc installs and shit like
yeah.
that.
And I was thinking, like, well, to be fair, it's like every time I put a PS4 or a PS5 game into my console, I basically have to like install some stuff for like 20 minutes or however long it is. And I'm thinking, I was like, well, I definitely didn't have to do that with my PS2. And I think I was, for the most part, I didn't have to do that with my PS3 either. But now it seems to be a glorified, because I think I remember talking to somebody and they were like, yeah, your disc is basically a glorified, what do you call it? Like,
A doorstop.
yeah, and it's just like the disc allows you to play the game, but you still have to install a chunk of stuff onto your console to be able to play it, and it's just like, when you say
Yeah,
about
even the new PlayStation 5, it has an optional disc add-on, right? You
yeah,
still have to be connected to the internet to even activate these damn games. So it's like the dream of physical is it's not what it used to be, guys. I mean, you still need the game to be called home to the server so they can download the patches and data to register to your account. Like, so your physical games are not even physical anymore. This isn't like 2000, this isn't like the 1990s or 2005 where you can just come home and stick the game in the console after school or work. It's like most of the stuff is centered around the internet. It's like you can't escape it.
I mean, I bought.
Even Nintendo Switch, like even the Nintendo Switch games, you still need to call home to a server in order to activate.
Unlike most of those, because just in regards to the physical ones, aren't like a bunch of the like physical games like basically just code in the box.
Yeah,
Yeah, it kind of like defeats the point, really. It's like,
it does defeat the point. So you might as well just get the digital game. It's like so many people are used to placebos and placebos just assuaging their feelings. And I get a lot of gamers are emotional over the fact that they don't want to lose control over their game. But at the very at the end of the day, the best you can hope for in an all digital future is to make sure that everything is like GOG because they are the golden standard. And, and I understand the feeling of putting in collecting a physical game and putting a physical game in a system, but those games are, I mean, those days are long gone, and we're not devolving. Like this industry is, like I said, the gaming industry is pretty much a technological. It is an industry based off technology. Technology moves forward, doesn't go backward, and the industry is not devolving, so you can feel like it's 1998 or something like that. It's like it's not happening. Like nostalgia can only carry you so much until you start realizing that you're in a very different time and place.
do you see like I guess it would probably be like a collector thing. Do you see people sort of burning like say burning like digital games to like a disc to I don't know sell on like the black market as it were, or even just to say oh yeah, I've got this on disc. It's like just like you said, like a bit of a placebo and just
Well,
like
yeah,
yeah, I've got.
it is a placebo effect because it's like at the end of the day, it's like when you have the digital version of the game, and many games are going digital now. Um, it's like the resale value of any physical games drops immensely, and even then, it's like most of these games are pirated. So what would be the point of even owning it? And even if you got the physical game and you're able to put it inside a game console, it's like once those servers go down, it's basically useless. Basically useless. I mean, the patches are gone.
I was going to say I remember I bought the 13 remake like about 2 years ago. I managed to get that like the physical copy for I think it was like 8-9 quid for the PS4 version,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very janky when I was playing it. But at some point down the line, there was like a massive patch and it made it better. But I was thinking, it's like, you know what? If I wasn't connected to the net and it was like, oh, here's an update, I'd still be playing the very janky version as opposed to the slightly janky version. So
Right. Right.
so
At
it's
the
like
end of the day,
yeah, the quality of life improvements you wouldn't like. What like you said, once the servers are shut down, it's just like well, you're stuck with like the really crappy version. And the sad thing is, most of these companies are shipping out a crappy version first, and then just like fixing post essentially. And it's just like well, and it's kind of
yeah,
sad that's standard now.
it is sad. But at the end of the day, that's what's happening. That's the reality. And my intention online is not to assuage your feelings or to make you happy or make you, feel good. My end goal is to just make you my end goal is basically to tell the truth, regardless of how cold and how harsh it is. And the reality is that the game industry is already all digital. And there's really nothing you can do about it. So Vinyl, I mean, not vinyl, but the game industry, well, video games, like physical video games are becoming the way of like vinyl, VHS tapes, stuff like that. Very boutique, but very niche products. So you're gonna get stuff like the limited run game type stuff is basically the vinyl of the game industry. It's basically the vinyl records of the game industry, like Fun Box, limited run games, stuff like that. Um, but overall, it's like, okay, how many people even download music anymore? Like,
um,
when was the
I-
last time you heard of a album selling?
yeah, I mean, I know I'm in the minority because I'm still sad and I still buy CDs, but I will still
Yeah,
also like buy stuff off iTunes and Amazon Music.
yeah,
But
they
again,
don't even.
I know I'm in the minority because again, I use my sister as a gauge because she's like early to mid 20s and she's just Spotify for everything music
Yeah,
related.
Spotify, YouTube. That most people don't even buy CDs anymore. Don't even buy anything of iTunes anymore. It's all streaming subscriptions. And while I loathe the day that video games become like a subscription based thing, you see where the industry is going with things like the Suicide Squad, right? The Suicide Squad game from Rocksteady.
Yeah,
It's basically it's quite virtually like that it's like the Netflix of gaming. They want video games to become a content delivery service. You know what I mean? Like they want video games to become like, oh, here's this game. We're gonna release multiple seasons of that game just to get replay value and player retention. It's no longer just a one and done experience. Like Rocksteady is, if you know who Rocksteady is, they were responsible for like the Batman Arkham games.
yeah. I mean,
Very, very, very legendary quadrilogy right there.
Arkham Asylum is one of the few games I have platinumed.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's I've played
Sad thing
all
is,
the Arkham games. They are a modern masterpiece.
it's crazy though. I've only played Asylum and Origins. I still need to play City, and it sounds bad, but that's how it is.
You really should. They're actually on. I think they're actually still on sale
To
on
be fair,
PC.
I do actually have again, this is me being physical collector stuff. I managed to snag um the PS4
Ar-
version of Asylum and City off eBay for like quite a cheap price. So I will get round to City again.
Oh, sweet. I mostly have all the games on PC, so I'm
Ironically
good.
though, I also have I bought them years ago on my PS3 as well, and that's the PS3 version is actually the one that I platinumed. But I was thinking again, recently I've been going through this thing where I've been buying games physically again, and I was thinking, oh yeah, you know what, it's PS4, it's a it's a HD upgrade. Plus the my version of City didn't have all the DLC, and I think the PS4 version has all of it, so I'll be able to like run around in like all the alternate outfits and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I also got like the PS3 version of Arkham Asylum.
Yeah,
Yeah, the PS3 version, and that's where my introduction of the Arkham games are at. But slowly but surely, I've been collecting them on PC because I knew they performed better on PC back then. And that's also part of the reason why I think PC gaming is vastly superior to console gaming is because of the fact that you can basically customize the performance to your level. Like if you remember when Arkham Knight launched, it was a massive mess on PC.
oh yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, but many people found workarounds and fixes to make the game playable, which is something you couldn't do on console. You had to literally wait for a patch for it to make it work right.
I,
Even
I
on PS4 Pro and Xbox One X,
yeah,
you have to wait.
I think. one thing I'd argue in favor of, because I mean, in favor of like consoles over PC up to a point, I guess. It's ironic because I'm also going to like slander it, but I'm a bit lazy in regards to certain PC things. Like I'm quite good at sort of going into my computer and tweaking stuff, but like I think I've got a mentality of if I'm having to like do a whole bunch of stuff to tweak the game, then it's just like it's like too much effort. I just want to play like just load it up.
PC.
But at the same time, I love the idea of mods, and I really would like the idea of having mods on console, which I know you can't do because it's like there's probably a whole bunch of like legal tape and stuff. But it would be I'd still find it cool to be able to have like like customizable like mod outfits and stuff for characters. But again, I know for console that would be just.
Let me say this. Yeah, I told you the internet kind of went janky.
Yeah.
So it's like with PC gaming is pretty much like it's basically like maintaining a sports car like a Ferrari. Like it's very high maintenance, but if you know what you're doing, it is basically an experience like no other. With PC gaming for me, it basically allows me to play damn near every generation of game, regardless of what era it is, and where the games are on. I'm not restricted by what a corporation imposes on me. Like if a game is censored, I can make it work to where it's not censored.
I mean, it's funny you say that because I've been playing Devil May Cry 5 recently.
Yeah.
And I read like I think it was like a year or two ago there was like the PlayStation version is censored somehow, and I kind of forgot about that until I was playing some mission or other, and there's this bit where like I think lady's supposed to be helping dig a hole or something, and she drops the towel, and there's this like bright light coming through, and it's basically sort of covering everything. Like,
but it's an M-rated game. Like
yeah,
it's an M-rated game, but you can't see a woman's ass on it. It's
yeah,
the times we live in, guys.
I was just thinking, I was like, and the thing is, I wouldn't have like clocked if it didn't seem so obvious that the light was basically going in the exact spots to cover stuff, and I'm just like, oh yeah, there's that thing about like censoring in like PlayStation games, and it's just like that just seems weird. So
yeah, that's part of the main reason why I don't play PlayStation anymore. It's I don't play PlayStation because of that stuff. I've since then quitted cold turkey. Look, I still play my backlog on PlayStation and probably get some DLC, but I'm done buying new games on PlayStation. It's either on my PC, occasionally on Xbox, and even more occasionally on the Switch. What PC is my main platform now.
I think the weird thing about PC is that like even though like I play like 99% of my games on like my PS5 and occasionally break out the PS3 for some stuff. I've got a bunch of emulators on my PC for old games that I remember playing like when I was a kid. Because I just can't be asked to like break out the PS2.
That's the best choice, really. That's the best option. It's just that PC gaming it's like if you're a gamer, having a gaming PC is basically an essential. It's not just a luxury thing anymore. It's basically an essential item now.
Because a lot of I had a quick look at it, like the games I've got earlier, and I realized that a chunk of them you can't. You'd have to like have the original hardware and the disc to be able to play it, because I've got the Time Splitters 2, Time Splitters 3, well, Time Splitters Future Perfect. There was this old obscure game that I had called Ghost Hunter, which is like some weird hybrid of like Ghostbusters and Resident Evil.
Yeah.
It's like a really obscure game, but I remember really enjoying it as a kid. And again, the only way to play that anymore is to either emulate it or to buy a copy online, hope it works, and have a working like PS2.
Yeah, it's like as the years pass, like people need to understand it's like most like retro game collection and physical game collecting, that's a rich man's hobby.
Oh yeah,
It
I mean,
really is.
I last week I literally paid the for £48 for the God of War Collection Volume 2, and I was just like, I should have bought this a couple of years ago when it was like 30 quid. But then again,
Yeah.
back probably at that point, I probably would have been saying, oh yeah, I probably should have bought that when it was like 20 quid. And like hindsight's 2020 and all that. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, in America, the game prices are still a little bit cheaper in America. But as far as like the video game, the retro video game collecting scene, that is a bubble that popped a long time ago. And it's on and the prices are getting higher, and the means of collecting are slowly going away. So and not to mention the fact that economically, most people don't have the time or the money to be collecting older games. So the only way they can feasibly play these games is through piracy, which is not only number one free, but number two, they already have the system to play the games on.
yeah, because I was
So
thinking about even like, I mean, my PC is probably, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like top of the range. I'd say it's probably like a solid like mid tier game, mid tier PC, because like it's got like 16 gig of RAM. Um, my graphics, I can't remember what make my graphics card is, but I've had it for probably 4 years now. But it can definitely play all the games that I want, and I'm assuming it could
so it's
probably.
kind of like my PC too. It's not top of the line, but it's definitely like a mid range PC or a
Hmm,
high mid range PC, if you want to call it that.
yeah. I guess the beauty for me as well is like I'm not that fussed about graphics. I mean, I grew up on around like PS1 and PS2 games, so I'm just like anything better than that is fine.
Oh, dude, I listen. If you want, if you want old school, I've been around since like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era,
I mean,
NES. So I know about old school graphics. Trust me.
to be fair, the first time I actually, yeah, the first game I ever played was Dangerous Dave 2 on my dad's PC. Then I moved to playing on my aunt's SNES when I used to visit. I bought my NES off a friend when I was 13. Then I bought my PS2 when I was about 15. So yeah, so like graphics are sort of probably secondary for me in the grand scheme of things. If it's like if the game's functional,
Right.
if the game's functional, the
Perf-
story's decent, I can run with it.
yeah, performance is basically what I'm a huge stickler of. It's like I can't stand games that are 30 frames per second anymore. I just can't.
It's weird you say that because like maybe I just need to play more games at 60 FPS, but I it it feels weird. I think I'm just so because I've got the Devil May Cry, not Devil May Cry, the DMC reboot on PS4, and I had it on PS3 as well. And ironically, well, the PS3 version I actually platinum, but I remember I went from playing the PS3 version to the PS4 version, and the PS4 version is 60 FPS, and it was cool. It's cool, but it's just like I think my brain is still so used to 30 FPS that it's just
Yes, yeah. That's the problem with the PlayStation 3 I had in general and 360 is that they sacrifice performance for visual prowess. And I think that the standards have been lowered because there were many games on the PlayStation 2 and original Xbox and GameCube that were 60 FPS. And developers focused more on performance rather than visual prowess. And there are many games on those systems that still age very well to this day. like Wind Waker or the original Halo or Final Fantasy X, God of War. There's a lot of games on the PlayStation 2 in general that still look very good to this day, that don't need any remastering, any retouching. It can still be played today and it looks flawless. So another lost art in today's game is basically good texture work. Like good texturing is basically a lost art because I'm getting into technical jargon here, but everything these days seems to be either shader based or PBR based. That's physically based rendering, and
Is that is
nobody
that
knows.
is that where it's like it renders as you sort of like keep going in?
Right, physical based rendering. And again, this is the game developer inside me, so forgive me if I'm forgive me if I'm getting everybody's getting lost on it. So basically, the gist of it is that physical based rendering is basically when you take data from a picture or texture and then you morph it into real time rendering, so people can use these physical based rendering textures instead of just hand painting them by hand. And yeah, they look good, they look more realistic, but at the same time, learning how to paint textures by hand can make your games age way better.
I've always said stylized graphics like age super better than realistic graphics. Like cell shaded games just tend to like look so much like the 20-year-old cell shaded games just looks way better than quote unquote the realistic graphics from the same period.
Right, but even like the realistic games back in the day, they still look good to this day because again, good texture work. As opposed to realistic games today, you need to you basically just need to remake the whole model. So ultimately, um back to what we were going with, PC, I mean like digital versus physical. Um Ultimately, I think that many people need to stop arguing and start going against the grain and start accepting the fact that and start accepting the fact that we're already in an all digital future, and you can either make it work to your advantage or you can still stay in the past and get left behind.
I mean, I would argue that um, it being sort of digital in the sense that they're like having like no DRM games and stuff like what you're saying about
Right.
and stuff allows people to have more control because obviously like Steam you have to have like a Steam player and all that. I think actually a good example is I bought the Metalocalypse series on iTunes like a couple of years ago when they were on sale, and
Hmm.
I wanted to stick them on my phone so I could watch when I'm going out and traveling and stuff. Couldn't do it because it's like you need like the iTunes player to do it, and you can't get an iTunes because I'm using an Android. You can't get like an iTunes player thing on your Android. So I'm just like, so this thing that I bought, I can't watch on my phone, my tablet. I can't stick it on a USB stick and stick it in the the TV. It's like, oh great. So I have
Right. That's a catch 22 with the all digital future. Like I'm not so heavy into the I'm listen, when I say that we already are in an all digital future, I'm not celebrating that fact. I'm not so much trying to give these corporations any more power than what they need to be, but I'm saying that this is the reality that we live in, and we need to basically just go around it. We need to adapt to it. There's nothing we can do anymore about physical game because it's already on its way out.
I do I would say
And if I I'm sorry if I can make one more point. Um I honestly think that piracy is going to increase tenfold again because more companies are delisting games and they're basically they're not allowing you to use the content that you bought to its full extent. So I think we're going to see a massive resurgence in piracy again, unless these companies get with the program and understand that you can't lock everything down to a specific ecosystem. Like, look at what just happened with Sony recently with the they basically are not allowing people to watch the movies and TV shows that they bought on their PlayStation ecosystem. They can't watch them anymore. The licenses are gone.
Yeah, license stuff is always going to be sort of like a minefield because I've got a whole bunch of licensed games on my PS3. Like I've got the Shattered Dimensions, Edge of Time, and the X-Men Origins Wolverine game. And like again, the only way to play those is to have the disc and like the hardware to play it on. Have they actually got to the point where you can emulate 360 and PS3 games yet?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like I mean, like you said, it was like once I guess people realize, oh yeah, I can get an emulator for my PS3 or 360. I can like start playing like these games again because there's no legal way for me to actually
Right.
play them. So.
And I'm a huge proponent of video game piracy in terms of like video game preservation. I'm a huge proponent of that. And I think a lot of people miss that is the fact that I'm not a industry shill as most people would say. You know, I say that pretty soon all you're going to be able to play your games on is basically either a phone, a cell phone, or a PC, or an Apple television, or a Google Play box, or whatever. There's not going to be any room for a console. That's why I'm saying that Apple and Google are going to be the big dogs in the gaming industry going forward. And it's like you're not going to be able to see physical console games be that much of a norm anymore. I'm shocked. I'm shocked to see that people are calling me a shill when I'm basically telling you basic industry facts in reality. It's not something that I would particularly enjoy saying, but at the end of the day, it's something that is going to happen. And I'm telling people this to brace for it and to prepare for it because it is coming, whether you like it or not. Sony and Microsoft are already making moves to not even make consoles anymore. They're basically making all digital platform. Even Xbox said themselves that they want to put all their games on every platform. They don't even want to make a Xbox console anymore.
Yeah, didn't there? Wasn't there a thing a couple of days ago where they were basically saying, "Oh yeah, we'll stick our games on like the PlayStation"? And I was like,
anything with a screen.
yeah, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so basically they're not even. So basically they're just saying we're about to make an exit stage right. We're not we're not going to make any more consoles
I
going
mean,
forward.
I was doing some quick research like before this, and I was checking the sales figures for stuff, and I saw that the Series S and X have only sold 21 million units, and that was apparently end of June. Yeah, the PS5's done 46, I think, round about now, and it was like
Yeah, that's
38 like in April. And I did actually see that I couldn't quite find any numbers for this year for graphics cards, but I did see that last year apparently 37.86 million graphics cards have been sold last year, and I'm like, that's a decent amount for 1 year versus the lifetime of these consoles.
yeah, it's mostly because Microsoft has not put out any compelling games for anybody to even buy an Xbox. And even though I am not really a fan of Sony, they are at least giving their user base a reason to stick on their ecosystem. And Nintendo's experience basically speaks for themselves. That's why they're retaining their player base. But again, how many of these companies, most of these companies are losing money making these systems. They're not gaining any money. And the money they are making on software could easily be supplemented just by just only making software.
yeah,
So
it's like, what is it? I read. I should have looked it up. But I do remember reading that. I think it took like Sony like 3-4 years before the sales from the PS4 hardware actually were like profitable.
Yep.
So I was like, damn, that's. But
Because you got to understand, it's like most of these companies don't make their money off of the hardware. They make their money off of the software. They make their money basically on the merch sales. That's where their bread and butter is at, and the subscription services too.
Hmm.
So that's why you don't really see so many game developers and publishers basically announce their sales numbers anymore, because they want to rely on player bases. They want to rely on user bases, user numbers. That's what they're going for. So that all ties right back into the physical versus digital. It's like these companies don't want to make any more physical games because it costs too much money to produce, versus you could just stick it on the server and it'll be much cheaper. Now, I do agree that games that are digital should be at least like $10 to $20 cheaper. I do agree with that. Like,
I think a friend of mine told me that apparently it's actually like a legal thing as to why digital games aren't cheaper than physical games. I can't remember the specifics of it, but apparently there's some legal thing as to why digital games can't be cheaper. Because I said the exact same thing. I was like, why aren't digital games like cheaper? It's like, why can I go into a shop, buy the physical game for like 60 quid, and the digital one's also 60 quid? I'm like, it's just like,
yeah, it's some nonsense going on, some red tape nonsense. So yeah, it's mainly some red tape nonsense. But the bright side is that digital games do go on sale a lot more.
that is true.
Yeah.
My wish list is like, I've got a bunch of, again, ironically, most of the stuff in my wish list is sort of remasters of like old PS2 games and stuff. So
Right.
I'll check my wish list every couple of weeks, and like Max Payne one's always on sale, Blood Rain's always on sale, and I keep meaning to buy them. I just keep forgetting, and I'm just like, well, I've got a massive backlog anyway. But yeah, they're always on sale every couple of weeks, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll get it next time. So
There's a sale pretty much on like all digital platforms every week. That kind of beats out the cons of digital gaming.
hmm.
But it's just that I just need people to stop trying to cling on to the past and just embrace the future for what it is. Now, it's not saying that you can't change the future. It's not saying that you can't, make it to where an all digital future will be much more palatable, but we have to start clinging on to the past. We got to stop, you know, we got to stop ignoring basic reality, because reality comes for everybody, no matter how much we run away from it.
Yeah, it is like, I think it does show, it will show like how adaptable people are. Like obviously, like there will be people who are like, no, I'm gonna stick with this and all the stuff before. Like I get that, but you're gonna get the itch where you're gonna want to play something new, or like check something out. Because part of the reason I got my PS5 is because, I mean, it's kind of ironic, really. But have you
Yeah,
have you? I mean, again, it's even more ironic. But you know that Phantom Fury game that's supposed to be coming out, I think sometime next year.
Phantom Fury.
It's the sequel to Ion Fury. It's a 3D Realms game.
Yeah, I'm I'm not completely familiar with this Phantom Fury game, but I am familiar with Ion Fury, though.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a sequel, and I was looking into it, and it was saying how it's coming out on PC, PS5, and the Series S and X. And I was thinking to myself, this game looks like it's supposed to come out in like 2002, and you're telling me it's only coming out, like it's not going to be on, like you're not doing a PS4 version. I'm just thinking, well, and might as well get myself a PS5 at some point. Again, like for me, like the perk of being able to play my PS4 games as well was that, and also it's a 4K Blu-ray player, which again, that's definitely going back to like niche stuff. I mean, I was reading how like 4K is even more niche than like Blu-ray, which was more niche than DVD. So like everything is sort of getting smaller and smaller in terms of like market share and stuff.
Yeah, there's really no reason to even buy a PS5 in 2023, especially when basically all of its games are coming to PC. Like Final Fantasy 16 is coming to PC next year. And many of Sony's first party games are already on PC, especially the PS5 exclusives. So
I listened to that one game joke song on YouTube.
yeah,
I was thinking to myself,
but it's true.
I was thinking, it's like, this is funny, but it's kind of annoying how true it is. I'm just thinking to myself, like, yeah.
I feel your pain because I know a lot of people who just got burned on getting a PS5 because it's like, what's the point? I could have just stuck with my PC, upgraded my PC, and left it with that. But I think a lot of people still think that, you know, they get the next generation of consoles and they're gonna enjoy a whole new world of gaming. And we're already basically 4 years into the next generation. And honestly, there's nothing to really justify any of these consoles because we haven't gotten any generation defining experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always like, I've always been somebody who's always been a couple of years behind in terms of buying the current gen console and stuff, because it's just me. But I will say, I can't say, like, when I got my 360 like 3 years into its life cycle, I was saying for like 3 years, I was like, oh yeah, I really need to play Gears of War. It's like, I really need to play Halo 3, like, and all that. And when the PS4 came out, I was thinking, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely need to play, like, I do need to get around to playing Killzone Shadowfall and Timefall 2 and stuff.
Yeah,
And
it's mostly a year that whenever a new system released, I mostly waited like until a year into a release till it can have some games for me to play. And the PS5 is pretty much the only PlayStation that I have not bought ever. I still do not have one.
I mean, like you said, it's like most of the games are like coming to PC, and if you've got like a decent rig, I guess there's no point really.
Right. There's no point.
Where were we?
Yeah, we were talking about basically how people need to we're basically talking about people accepting the fact that digital gaming is becoming a go-to way to play your games now.
Yeah. Do you reckon like part of that has anything to do with sort of like the whole live service model sort of thing? Because I've got a friend whose kid like plays like Fortnite like loads, and it's like Fortnite, Fall Guys, all that sort of stuff. And
yeah, it's
there's,
like
there's no need for a disc for that. So
right, a lot of younger players are playing live service games, while a lot of older players are playing the more traditional experience type games, the more traditional single player type games. And yeah, I think it can be chalked up to a generational gap, but at the same time, you can also chalk that up to the fact that kids just want to play. They just want to be in the virtual playground. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, multiplayer games have existed since you and I was a kid, and we definitely enjoy multiplayer games too. But I don't think gaming was particularly a very, what you would say, a particularly popular hobby back then. So I guess you could chalk it up to that. And now that gaming has somewhat become mainstream, you're definitely seeing more people gravitate towards multiplayer games just be part of the conversation.
yeah, I definitely saw like a change in like popularity and stuff, sort of like end of the 2000s, because like I remember in school, like I remember I'd be like, oh yeah, I play video games, and people would look
Yeah,
at
yeah,
like, what the hell, man?
yeah, towards the end of like, yeah, towards that era, a lot of people were talking about Call of Duty. Most of the guys, but like a lot of people were mostly talking about Call of Duty, Modern Warfare.
It was
You know,
it was either COD or the sports games.
yeah, but you can definitely tell that a lot of it was becoming more popular even back then. But I guess guess you can thank COD for that type of the influence.
For better or worse.
Yeah, for better or worse. But yeah, you're definitely seeing a more of a generational gap when it comes to what people are playing. Like you're definitely seeing more kids play multiplayer games, regardless of how it's rated and stuff like that. But you're also seeing a lot of older players play the Final Fantasies and the God of Wars and the Zeldas and stuff like that. So is I think it has to do with attention spans, believe it or not, because a lot of kids have the attention span of a goldfish.
Well,
And you can definitely say a lot of adults who grew up playing video games as well, but um, yeah, it's mostly just kids just don't have a lot of kids just don't have a good attention span.
oh yeah, I mean, like I was in a I was at a school for a bit, and a lot of the teachers that I was talking to, they were like, yeah, the kids can, it's just like really hard for them to like focus in a lesson and stuff. And I'm like, what lessons are only like what 45 minutes? I'm like, that pretty standard back in the day. It's like,
Yeah, I would say that ADD, ADHD has a lot to do with that because again, kids are more easily stimulated, but kids are more easily stimulated, but as you get older, you kind of do grow out of hyperstimulation. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, for me, well, for me, it's like I'd like to play, like when I finish work and stuff, I'd like to be able to like just sit down and play a game for like 2 hours or something. But like I think that's probably why I've been playing a lot of Quake, because I can basically just like, right, I can play this level, complete that level. It takes about like 15 minutes, and I'll have to go off and do some like adult stuff and
Yeah.
like, do something around the house or whatever. And it's just like, right, I need to like snatch the 50 minutes here, have to go actual stuff, and then like, but yeah,
Yeah, it's basically when you have more stuff to do, you kind of put things in perspective. Like I basically don't have all the time in the world to play games anymore, but I still do find time to play games, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Mostly when the day is over or pretty much when, I have some time on my day off. But definitely don't have the time as I used to sit in front of the television like 5 hours a day and mindlessly game away because at the end of the day the real world, you got to come back to the real world.
yeah.
Yeah, so gosh, I wish I had more to say on this issue, but I basically said what I had to say.
No, man, it's
Like one more thing, um and I know a lot of people get angry at me at this. um Go figure. Story of my life. But I've been saying that Apple and Google are becoming the main two go-to players in the game industry, and that you're seeing a lot more games come to the iOS and Google Android platforms. Like Resident Evil 8, you can play on an iPhone now, an iPhone 14.
really,
Or yeah,
ah, did not
like
know.
the full version of Resident Evil 8, 60 frames per second.
Is this like the proper like top of the range?
Yeah, it's the proper Resident Evil. No visual downgrades or anything. It's the version. And you can play it on the iPad too. You can play it on an iPad. You can play it on Mac. You can even play it on an Apple TV, the newest one, of course.
That's
So
impressive.
yeah, you're getting a lot more, I would say, AAA gaming, traditional AAA gaming experiences on these platforms, on these platforms. And I'm saying that iOS and Android, they're not quote unquote mobile game. I think we need to get rid of the mobile gaming stigma because they're not just mobile gaming, they're operating systems at the end of the day. Just like Apple, I mean, just like Mac, Windows, or Linux, they're operating systems. And if you can get a game to play on those systems, what would be the difference? And another thing too, you may not know this, but I'm a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. I think that Mario is kind of overrated. It's good, but it's kind of overrated. I'm a massive Sonic the Hedgehog fan, and there's this game called Sonic Dream Team coming out, right? I don't know if you've heard of that.
Nah.
Yeah, it's coming out on the 5th. It's basically, from what I've
Can you play
heard,
a shadow though? Wait, just to check, can you play a shadow? Because I might be more
no,
interested. Oh.
you can
Well,
play Rouge the Bat though.
oh.
Yeah, but
Can't-
yeah. So basically, it's kind of like the game that it looks like the game that Sonic Frontier should have been.
Oh,
Open world, um, various different pathways, more cohesive level design, and not to mention that the developers said themselves that they were inspired by Mario 64 and the Tony Hawk games of all top of games to basically build these games, basically develop this game, and it's kind of exclusive to it's exclusive to Apple Arcade, and a lot of people are pissed about it because it's been quite a while because certain characters are in the game that people have been wanting to play for years, and since the characters are there, they're kind of mad because they won't be able to play it on a majority of their devices. And keep in mind, you only have to have at least an iPhone 6 in order to play this game. Like an iPhone 6, an Apple television, even a Mac Mini, you can play this game. And I went ahead and bought a 2014 Mac Mini just to play this game.
okay. So
Yes,
not exactly like recent hardware.
not recent, but at the same time, it's still able to play it.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I updated it to the latest software. I mean the latest operating system, of course. And I'm just now waiting for the game to release because it comes out, I think, let's see, today is Saturday, so it's yeah, it comes out on Tuesday. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably share with you on Twitter, but it looks really good.
I mean, I'm sort of very inconsistent with my Sonic games. I mean, the last one I played was Generations, which shows you how long ago that was.
Yeah, yeah, but basically, if the games are there, basically what I'm saying is that if a game is there, that's where I'm going. You know, I can't limit myself to a specific medium or specific medium or a specific hardware or a specific platform. I'm gonna go where the games are, regardless of how many people want to still cling to the past.
And I guess one of the perks of having PC is that that's pretty much the case.
Yeah, especially if you have a Mac in this case. But yeah, uh, yeah, I think that the gaming community needs to let go of tradition and start embracing the future. And if you embrace the future, you can mold it to what you want it to be.
Yeah, I
You can
mean,
mold it to what games you want to play, the type of games you want to play. Um, I can go back to basically the type of games you want to play. There are a lot of like a lot of people are lamenting the fact we don't get the type of games we used to play anymore, and we could go to independent developers to fix that scratch. I mean, fix that itch, because there are a lot of independent game developers that are making the type of games we want to play, but nobody's talking about them, which is infuriating.
Yeah, I mean, I bought Evil West start of this year, and it's one of the few games that I bought soon after it got released. Because again, I very rarely do I buy games of like soon after like launch or anything. But this was one of
Hmm.
the few games that I bought. I think it came out like end of last year, and I think I bought it like start of this year, and that's very rare for me. I mean, it did help that it was quite cheap in comparison to like AAA games, but
Yeah, I no longer buy AAA games anymore. Those days are long gone. Like it's
I had way more fun with Evil West than I did any AAA game I've played recently.
yeah, it's like with I mostly stick with independent games and double A games, like those double A game experiences that are not quite like AAA, but they are like AAA. I guess I would have to say like the RoboCop game. You
Yeah,
know
I
that
mean,
RoboCop game that came out?
yeah,
That's what I consider a double A experience. A gameplay like basically gameplay that you can use. I mean, gameplay that you can enjoy without having it be some overproduced, over pretentious ESG type games. It's just like a regular game.
yeah. I mean, I guess I go go off slightly and say the same things happening with like films and stuff. Like the I'm kind of annoyed because me and a friend we had said, oh yeah, we should go see The Creator. Couple of, like roughly when it first came out, like we never got around to it because just schedules for permitting and stuff. But we were saying how we were saying earlier actually we should have gone to see it because it's a mid tier movie, and if more
Mm-hmm.
people had seen it um, and it had ended up making a profit, the studios probably would have like, oh yeah, we can probably make more mid tier films and probably more likely make our money back off these instead of banking on like the big massive like blockbusters that have to make stupid amounts of money to break even and stuff.
Yeah, it's basically to the point where if you want the stuff that you love, you can't turn to the big companies anymore because they're not going to give you what you love. They're going to give you what they think is going to make money. And you're seeing a lot of independent filmmakers are breaking out, becoming household names. You're seeing a lot of independent media getting more views than some of these network television shows. You're seeing independent game developers push the limits of what was previously thought. They're taking way more risks and they're doing way more cooler stuff than I was that I would have liked to see from the triple A game industry. And you got double A tier games like Liza P. You know that game, Liza P?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people talk about it, and I was like, that looks interesting.
It does. And it just goes to show you that if you want better, you have to aim smaller.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tragic irony is like you. I think, like you said, it's like you get those people who lament that they don't get games that they used to like anymore, but
Or
they,
comic books or stuff like
yeah,
that. It's like
and they
they're
won't,
there. You just not gonna see them from the big companies anymore because they're too busy trying to boost their ESG scores.
yeah, because like you need to actually put in the effort to actually look for these things now.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people that I think it's probably a combination of like they either don't know how or they don't want to.
yeah, they're still holding out hope for these companies to turn it around. And I recently saw a video by I don't know if you notice his name is he used to be called I think Thinking Critical or Computing Forever, but he's now known as Dave Cullen.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Is he's a ginger dude, ain't he?
yeah, he's a ginger. Ginger
Yeah.
lives matter, by the way. But his one of his latest videos was basically learning how to walk away. And hold on, if I can just type it in the chat right here. One of his latest videos was basically learn how to walk away from these massive companies and these massive studios, because they're not gonna change, and we're not in control of them. We can scream all we want about, anti wokeness and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we're not in the driver's seat. And we got to learn how to walk away, and we got to learn how to search for entertainment that pleases us, because the more that we stop spending time and money on these basically the less we spend time and money on these woke projects, or these projects that just endlessly preach politics to us, the more they're going to keep churning them out. And we got to learn how to walk away. We got to learn how to seek alternative entertainment that makes us happy, that makes the fans happy. So it's quite all right to walk away from a major game company if they're not delivering the goods anymore. Like 343 Studios, they're not delivering the goods anymore. So,
I mean,
I guess you could say,
I didn't like Halo 4 that much. So.
or Halo 5 or Infinite. Those were terrible.
Well, I mean, those were on like I didn't I never got an Xbox One, so I was just like, eh.
Well, they're on PC as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of like probably could, yeah, I don't know. Well, but you said it sucks, so it's like, so there's no point.
Yeah, so yeah, but I know the developers of you remember the Tribe games?
Which ones?
Tribe Ascension.
Nah.
No, you don't remember that?
No.
Well, it's basically it came out it's basically Halo before it was Halo, right? Had all the classes of it had all the trappings of classic first person shooter, right?
Yeah.
They're basically they're now making Tribes 3, and they're putting out a multiplayer beta. And what I can say right now, that it looks instantly better than Halo ever could.
Damn. I mean,
it's called Tribes 3.
I think what I don't know if it will actually happen, but something that I'm cautiously optimistic for in terms of films and stuff is, well, can't be that stoked for it. I can't remember the name of it. It's Zack Snyder's Netflix movie that's apparently sort of like a retooling of his Star Wars script.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, you know what? That looks cool. That looks far more interesting than the recent Star Wars movies to me. I'll give that a shot. It's up in the air as to whether I like it or not, but I'm far more interested in that, and I'd rather check that out than recent Star Wars. And I guess hopefully you might get to the point where people are doing the things like, well, you know what? I wanted to make a, into whatever game, film, whatever. I'll just make my own and just rechange characters. Because like Star Wars originally started off as George Lucas wanted to do like a Flash Gordon movie / Dune movie. Couldn't do it. He just mashed the two together and made Star Wars. So
right, that's the type of thing we're gonna have to do now. Is like, if we're not seeing the content that we like, then we're gonna have to either make our own or support those that make their own. That's the bare minimum now. Is we got to start going into a second creative. We got to go into sort of a creative renaissance where a lot of new IPs, could be the next potential Star Wars, could be the next potential Star Trek, or the next potential James Bond. We can't rely on these old properties anymore to entertain us because they've been captured. So we're just gonna have to we're gonna have to stop. We're just gonna have to stop funding our own misery. Is the best way I can put it.
No, that makes sense. It's like, because I think there are people who will like buy stuff or go see stuff and
just out of habit.
convince themselves that they're having a good enjoying it, when at best they're probably thinking it's okay.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I do what I do, is because I promote independent creators. I promote creators that, actually do put in the effort to make just put in the effort to make good content. And that's what I do. I don't put too much of a focus anymore on trying to, highlight bad media because that's what they want. I'm just going to focus my efforts on making sure that I'm going to focus my efforts on making sure that the people who do deserve support and do deserve highlight are shown in a good spotlight.
Yeah, everybody's talking about how much the trying to think of a good example now. Yeah, everybody's talking about how much the Marvel sucks, but nobody's promoting. What's that? I've barely seen anybody talking about the. Oh, what's that Henry Cavill movie that's coming out next year? It's like Argyle or something.
Movie.
I think it's Argyle.
I didn't know he was making a movie. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it's called Argyle, and it's this weird, he's playing a character in a book series, but it turns out the author, what she writes ends up coming true or something, I think.
I have no idea. I do know he's expected to play in a Warhammer 40K TV show.
Yeah, I've heard of that as well. Don't know what it's what's happening to that in regards of production and stuff, but yeah, he's supposed to be doing that, and that sounds interesting. I mean, I never got into Warhammer 40K myself, but
yeah, okay. I think I've seen. I think I see what you're talking about now. I think it's called Argyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Argyle. And yeah, it's yeah, I think I'll check it out. I think I'll check it out, but it goes back to what I'm saying is that if you want better, you're gonna have to look deeper. I know there's this movie called, hold on, Miracle Drinker. Let's see, movie called The Killer. Right? You ever heard of The Killer?
Oh yeah, that's the new David Fincher Hitman movie, isn't it?
Right, and it's it's basically it's like how to subvert your expectations, but the right way. You had, from what I've heard, is basically not your standard, action thriller flick. It's more of a methodical, kind of grounded, realistic type movie where you
an actual assassin.
right. He's not Superman. He's not some absolute badass Superman type character. No, he's just a guy who puts business before anything else. He's a businessman, if you can put it that way.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think that yeah, I can't fathom supporting any more mainstream stuff anymore. It's just all of it just seems like a gray blur, if that makes sense. It's nothing but gray sludge.
I think for me,
indistinguishable.
I've watched so many films over the years. I've played so many games over the years that I mean, it's obviously nice to see stuff that's familiar, but at the same time, it's what incentive do I have to watch this thing or play this thing when it's basically the same as something I've already got or already played? And it's just well, yeah.
Yeah, it's everything has been written by the same person. It's and no dissenting thought or no dissenting ideology can ever come into play. It's all written by the same mindset, and I don't have the time nor the money to spend money on just the same thing.
I mean, I remember I watched Black Panther in the cinema, and I was thinking to myself, it's fine. It's it was I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was good. it's fine. It was like
Yeah,
the all the plot beats were basically the same as like previous Marvel movies, and I'm thinking it's like, it's like
yeah. The MCU should have just stopped after Endgame. That's the common consensus. Everything should have stopped after Endgame, and Marvel should have gave it like at least a 5 or 10 year break.
yeah,
But you know they had to keep going, and well, you seen where we are at now.
yeah. I think I've literally only ever since Endgame I've only watched No Way Home was the
Yeah, the
multiverse.
Spider-Man movies.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could justify seeing those, but
I mean
I,
they definitely got me with the nostalgia bait, but and I'll fully admit that. But apart from that movie, I've really had no interest in anything else. I just can't be asked because, like you said, like Endgame was such a good bookend point that I was just like, well, what do you do now?
and and it just seems that everybody agrees. It's like it's just the Marvels was a turning point, and I didn't think it would flop that hard, but it was definitely the Marvels is definitely a turning point to where people can no longer deny it. It's just that a lot of people are just now just saying, Marvel ain't what it used to be. Even the people who shield for it are basically saying, nah, this ain't it anymore.
Didn't like I because from my understanding from a lot of like the recent films and movies and stuff, it's like nothing really happens. It's just like obviously like stuff happens in the movie, but like by the end of the movie, there's nothing really significant, and it's just like, well, yeah,
Yeah, it's all just meaningless fluff. And nothing of consequence ever happens, which is a complete 180 from like the actual comic books.
I
Like the
mean,
actual comic books actually had something going on in there. And it just feels that I don't know, it's like these developers, I mean not the developers, but these directors, they don't actually care about the actual comics anymore. They just want to write their own fan fiction, and that's not what people went to. It's like what Chris Gore said. You can't turn a previously male dominated boy brand into a girl brand because boys and girls like different things. And Marvel is trying to court a female audience, but the female audience didn't even see the Marvel.
I think the irony is it ties in with what you're saying about like we need like more like original stuff. If these people were making like these films and games and stuff with original characters, the irony is you probably get more people receptive to them than them sort of taking existing characters and just tweaking them to make them into what they want them to be.
Right? It's like if you just made an original character, nobody would be angry. Nobody would be angry, but they seem intent on just ruining things that people love because they get off on that. It also goes back to what I was saying about walking away. It's like you got to walk away from this stuff if you want actual change. You can't, have it in your mouth anymore. You can't have it in your thoughts anymore. You got to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, again for me, like I'm always on such a massive like backlog that
Yeah, it's like people have more than enough entertainment to last them for centuries, and they don't need this new stuff. Probably reason why most of this new stuff is not selling as well is because people already got years and years and years and decades and decades and decades of entertainment to the point where they don't need this stuff anymore. They don't need it anymore. And I'm glad people are waking up to that.
yeah, because I mean, I think it shows that if it like for me like that there's probably like some games and stuff that I'll see people talking about online and I'll be like, oh, okay, that looks interesting, and I'll put it in the list of backlogs pile of I should probably get that at some point. And like for example, I'm still looking to get Shadow Warrior 3 at some point. That's
Yeah,
that's that's on my backlog list. That game came out like what 2-3 years ago. That's still on my list.
yeah,
Versus
I can't mess with the Shadow Warrior stuff anymore because of the voice actor thing, because the main voice actor for the first two Shadow Warrior games was replaced because he didn't have the right ethnicity.
oh, did that's
So he had to be the main character. Wang Chun had to be voiced by an Asian guy instead of the guy that actually made him a very popular character to begin with. So it's yeah, I can't support that.
That's weird.
It,
Well,
it
I mean,
is weird, but
I'm not surprised, but at the same time, it just seems
yeah, it's the little things that kind of irks me. But
I think the thing I find crazy about that is that, like, if memory serves, both voice actors for Kratos and God of War have been black, and I'm just like, oh,
but
that's
he's great. It's only selective outrage.
yeah,
If a white guy versus anybody who's a shade darker than yellow, then honestly, that person needs to go. But it sucks that you have to research the media that you want to watch with a fine comb just to make sure you don't support any nonsense. But ultimately, that's where we're at. You can't turn your brain off anymore, man. You can't turn your brain off and just watch or play different things anymore. You gotta do research, and it's a
yeah,
crappy way to live. But at the same time, it's kind of like knowing what's in your food before you put it in your mouth.
true. It's like
Sometimes you
I just
gotta
want
you gotta look at the yeah.
I
Sometimes
just,
you gotta look at the ingredient list so you don't eat something that's not natural.
I just want to shoot stuff.
Yeah, me too.
uh,
But if that's all, I think we can call it a wrap.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
You can follow me at Black D Gamer 1, or you can just type in my name. It doesn't matter. And Alex, where can people find you at?
I'm my channel's optional side quest on YouTube. My Twitter's like Alex Sidequest, and Instagram's Alex Sidequest as well.
Okay. And okay. All right. I think this was a very fruitful conversation, and I hope to actually have more fruitful conversations with you, Alex.
Sweet, it's all good.
All right then. I'll catch you later then, dog.
Okay, see ya.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.